So quick how-to for Zoom. Yes, we'll go over quickly how to do the following. Sorry, hold on. Speaking of, I am having technological difficulties. Okay. Yes. So first, wanted to go over quickly what your Zoom looks like right now. I am screen sharing. So there is a bit of, so I don't have it right in front of me, but on the slide here, the very bottom of your Zoom, since y'all already are on Zoom, obviously, I trust that you all have the app downloaded. You can join a Zoom meeting. This is how we conducted interviews for the fellowship and the advocates program. So I trust that y'all kind of are already familiar with like joining a Zoom. But in terms of the capabilities of Zoom, we really want to be able to have everyone participate fully through either reactions, chats. Closed captioning is also a really great option, great aspect of Zoom, which I can actually turn on now. So for folks who like to have captioning, Zoom does have a live caption option that we encourage for folks who may be hard of hearing or for any other reason might need captioning to, if you're in a Zoom meeting, to turn that on. And any participant in a Zoom meeting can turn on captions. And there's also a way for folks who might be distracted by closed captioning to turn it off specifically for themselves. But overall, closed captioning is really great, and it's a really great function of Zoom. So we encourage folks, in case for whatever reason the host forgets to turn it on, to do that as to be able to turn it on as a participant. So at the bottom of your Zoom, you'll have this bar of all the different options, including reactions, breakout rooms. That show caption area right here is where you can turn on captions as a participant. And then the participants list and the chat as well. So those are the capabilities of Zoom at the bottom. And very quickly, how to change your name. We encourage everyone, and especially if you're joining from an iPhone, for example, especially for security purposes, we need everyone to identify themselves in the participants when you join a Zoom. So if you can include your name, you don't have to include your last name for whatever reason. If you have if there are any security issues, or if you need to use a pseudonym, that's also fine. But we just want to make sure that we don't have any folks who aren't welcome in the space for whatever reason, or might have bad intent to join the Zoom and these spaces. Here in the participants list, you'll see my name, and then you can change your name here in the more section. If you click on the more, and then you just would you would type in your name and then click rename. So that's how you rename yourself in Zoom. Also, best practices is to include your pronouns. We want to encourage folks to proactively share their pronouns to ensure that everyone is being as inclusive as possible in these spaces. Again, as mentioned, a way to hide captions. You can turn on captions, as I mentioned before, by clicking on the captions on the very bottom right next to the breakout rooms. But you can also hide captions if for whatever reason you need to, and that will hide the captions for yourself once captions are turned on. Reactions are a really great way and a good way to take polls or get a pulse on folks, or if folks want to react but don't want to unmute themselves for whatever reason. The reactions button for Zoom is really helpful. So you can use reactions through these various emojis. And then you can also raise your hand if you have a question. So the reactions button on the bottom, if you have any If you have a question, as something during a web session, feel free to always raise your hand, or even put in the chat section, stack, which often means that you want to be placed in the stack to talk next. Yeah, that's also a good way to raise your hand or chime in during a web session. The 3 buttons right here have additional reactions that you can react to in Zoom. The meeting chat, again, is a really good place to put in questions, to place yourself in the stack if you want to ask a question. You can, yeah, I know various folks are, if you have a thought or a response that you don't want to mute yourself, but you'd rather just put it in the chat, feel free to do so too throughout these web sessions. Some Zoom best practices. So Zoom best practices, be on time. If you know that you might have a little bit of an issue, maybe jumping on the Zoom, try to jump on a couple minutes early if you can. Make sure your name is accurate. Again, if you, for whatever reason, if we're recording and you want to use a pseudonym, please feel free to change that before recording, but we do ask that, in these spaces together that we just, for security purposes, know who's on the Zoom. Include your pronouns. Again, as mentioned, we want to make sure this is an inclusive environment as possible. I will try my best to turn on the closed captioning, but if I don't, for whatever reason, please feel free as a participant to enable closed captioning through the Zoom. Recording. I'm going to let folks know ahead of time once I start recording, and also Zoom has that very helpful notification that pops up when a meeting is recording. Yes, we will let folks know ahead of time or before we click recording, and if you need to change your name or go off camera for any reason, please do. For cameras, we don't expect folks to be on camera at all times. If you want to be on camera and want to engage with the speaker and the material on camera, we do encourage that. But again, we understand that sometimes you need to be off camera for whatever reason, and so those are just that's just our one note around cameras. Raise your hand or add yourself to the stack in the chat if you have a thought or a question. And then also sometimes too, the format of the speakers or the presenters will also, they'll say like, feel free to jump in if you have any questions. So it just depends on the presenter for the training each month, because I will not be presenting every month, don't worry. We'll have folks coming in from different organizations and different partners coming in to present on the content. So yeah. And then also feel free to utilize the chat often. I know that y'all are familiar with Zoom already, and so that's a really great place to, put in reactions, thoughts. Yeah. And then we have some resources. I'll share out these slides too, in case folks want to learn a little bit more. There's some helpful kind of Zoom YouTube videos that kind of that folks can go through afterwards. Great. And then for Google Suites, and feel free to, if you have a question, raise your hand or ask the question in the chat. I will try to do my best to monitor, or feel free, if your hand has been up for a while, feel free to just chime in and let me know you have a question. Okay, for Google Suites. So quickly, I want to go over forms. So what we'll be using forms for are surveys. So these are surveys, for example, if it is a post-session survey, we want to be able to get folks' feedback early on. Yeah, and I see a question from Kenya, do you download Google Suites? So you don't download Google Suites necessarily. I think you can download like the certain apps for for each of the, for example, like I know you can download an app for Google Drive onto your phone and access the Google documents on your phone. Primarily, I would say I would recommend using Google through your browser, your Google Suites. You don't have to download anything. You just, if you have access to internet, just be able to just go through Google Suites through your browser. So I'll go over that quickly too as well in a second on how to access Google Suites. Actually, let me do that right now. So yes, so right here, so usually if you go to Google in your browser, if you have a Google account, you might have to sign up for a Google account if you don't already have one. But right here, you can log into your Google account, and then in this, but on the top right hand corner here, you have 9 dots. And this is like Google Suite, right? These are all the applications that you can use through Google, including Google Drive, your email account, your calendar, Google Docs, Forms, etc. And I see we have a hand, Shakina Rose.
I just wanted to throw out that under your A in the top, I have multiple Gmail addresses. So if you click on your picture, or in your case, the letter, it'll drop down a menu that you can select whatever account is listed, and you can swap in and out, and you don't have to go through each separate like tab. If you have a separate tab for each of those Gmail accounts, you can just use that as the central point to access everything. And it'll apply to Google Drive, all of the docs, blah, blah, blah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that recommendation. I know y'all are like, I'm sure maybe even more tech savvy than I am. So thank you for chiming in and adding those pieces as well. Yeah. So yeah, exactly what Shakina said. If you click right here, there is a drop down that you can toggle between accounts if you have multiple Gmail accounts. Okay, great. So Forms is one of the Google Suite applications that we'll be using. You don't actually have to download much for Forms, which is nice. Usually what Forms will be sent to you through a link. So for example, it'll look like the link here, or it'll be linked in a hyperlink in an email for you to fill out. Y'all applied to the fellowship and the advocates project through a Google form. So hopefully y'all are already familiar with it, but we'll be continuing to use Google Forms through for surveys, as I mentioned, post session surveys to get feedback on what worked, what didn't work, how we can improve, assignment submissions, gathering information from y'all. For example, if we need to get updated names, addresses for folks, this is a good confidential way to collect information in one place. As I mentioned, there may be assignment submissions assignments that we assign to y'all in between sessions. For example, an assignment could be, what is the HIV what does HIV criminalization look like in your state, whether that's laws or policies. That could be an assignment in between sessions, and then we'd ask you to submit your research into a Google form submission. So here, for example, if I click this link, it takes me to this form. As it looks familiar, I'm sure, to you all based on you submitted your application through Google Forms. But for example, this will have the different drop downs. You can actually upload different files. For example, if you wanted to upload your notes from something through a Word doc or a PDF, you can upload files through this option here. You can browse and then upload it through the Google form. you can write in your answers in paragraph form here, and then this star right here means that it's required for you to complete the form. That's a required question. And so, yeah, it could give you different options, and you just press submit once you're done. And then you should be able to, yep, it will take you to a completed a web page saying that your response has been recorded. So make sure that you press submit to actually submit the information, and you'll get this confirmation that it's been recorded. Yeah, would hate for you to fill out the form or upload something and then maybe toggle out before submitting. So make sure that you submit, you press submit. So for Google Docs, we will be using Google Docs to, for example, for notes, if you're an H&P advocate, this is where you're going to be, your main notes document will be included. For PWN policy fellows. Y'all will have a folder that you'll be able to input, for example, a folder on your policy practicum, information that you want to put in, for example, like if it's a presentation or a research, like a running research document. This is where we want PWN policy fellows to put their information in, and just so that we can support y'all in your work in your practicum, your policy practicum. So quickly, how to use Google Docs. So usually you will get an email notification that a document was shared with you, or a folder, for example. And so this is what it looks like when you get that email. For example, for Blue's folder, I shared their folder, my apologies, with myself through my email, and then this is what pops up when I get their folder notification. And so here is a button that you would use to open their folder, and then you'll be able to gain access and work in the folder. You might have to log into your Google email to gain access. For example, it was shared only with legalfellow@pwn-usa.org. So if I'm not logged into my email, I won't be able to access the folder. So make sure that you're logged into your Google email if you are trying to access the folder. Okay, and this is as mentioned, where you would go to regain access, for example, to your folder. So you would just go into Google, you would click Drive here, or Docs, for example, and this is what it looks like. So for example, Blue's folder, they don't have anything currently, and I haven't quite shared these folders. I will do that after this training. So this is kind of what it looks like when you're in your Drive, for example. And so if Blue, for example, wanted to create like a new, if they wanted to do a file upload, for example, they wanted to upload a document, a notes document, then they could click File Upload and upload that information. I will do that, for example, let's see, High Note Slides. If they wanted to upload a PDF, you would just click New, File Upload, and then it uploads into the folder. If they wanted to create a new Google Doc, for example, like a notes document, you would just create new Google document, and then you would, for example, put notes from XYZ, and then they would be able to write whatever they would like in this document. Quickly, how to share documents if you wanted to collaborate with someone. If you wanted someone to be able to access this specific document, you would click the share button on the top right. And for example, if we wanted to share this with me, they would just put in my name, their email, and then they could click that this person can view, comment, or edit, and then they can go ahead and send, and I'll get the same email notification that I had shown on my slide previously, so that I could access it. So that's also a good way to be able to collaborate with people on different documents on one document, for example. And okay. Okay. And then for H&P advocates in particular, y'all already have your Google, your folders, your folders set up in Google Drive. You've already received access to those folders. And so for example, LaShonda, who is a second year H&P advocate continuing on, has all of her documents, including, for example, her technical assistance meeting notes. This is where you're going to be inputting, for example, all of the notes from your coalition meetings, meetings with your coaches. If you would like, you can set up a separate meeting notes for check-ins with your coaches, or for your coalition. But this in particular, everyone has their template notes for their coaches, for meetings with their coaches. And this is just for H&P advocates. Shakina Rose, I see your hand.
Question, does Google Drive automatically create a file folder, whether you're H&P or PWN policy fellow? Will there be a file all in Drive so that we don't add anything outside of? Does that make any sense? In other words, I've got a lot of files in my Google Drive right now, and I'm just wondering if we need to create a PWN policy fellow file folder so that every Google Drive knows that everything goes in.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I think maybe I hope I'm understanding your question, but if you do, for example, have something related to the PWN policy fellows that you wanted to upload into the Google Drive, I will give you access to that folder shortly after this training, and you can upload those files into that folder. Does that maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. Sorry.
Maybe I'm not understanding it either.
I think,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what she's saying is, is Google going to be able to differentiate what files go where? Like if you already have other things stored, is Google gonna disseminate it with your other stuff, or is it gonna create a separate file just for the things that you're doing as a fellow?
My thinking is that it's not unless we actually create one.
I think so. I think that's my understanding.
If I may interject, what I was doing was creating me a PWN email. So everything that's for PWN, it'll be linked to that email and it'll go to that Google Drive.
That's a good idea.
Like I'm trying to set up in my Gmail file folders so that everything is automatically filtered over to whatever label, in this case, PWN policy fellow, so that, and attach the emails associated with what I'll be receiving, so that I don't have to go through a whole stream. I get a lot of emails, so remembering which specific and
that's
all of that, it's a lot of work.
Creating a Gmail just for PWN, like that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Doing my first name, that dot last name, and then do like a hyphen PWN.
Yeah, that
at
sounds like
Gmail.
that's a good idea.
And that's so it won't be crammed with everything. Because we
I
do get
hear
a
you.
lot of emails for PWN. So that's where it just
Yeah.
go to one spot.
I like that,
Yeah.
Brielle. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I see Kelly's email tags are so useful. Yeah, that's a really you're at the advanced email filtering level, Shakina Rose. That's awesome. And yeah, I love how folks are already thinking about creating their own kind of ways to track emails and get information. I will say for the folder that I will be sharing with y'all, hopefully you'll be able to access that through whatever email that you can't, but I think you will have to manually input like files or information into that folder specifically. So I don't think it'll automatically know what will be like PWN related. And by files for this folder, I mostly mean like, again, as it like you, for example, like if you have a presentation around your policy practicum, that you can upload that that presentation into your folder, a PowerPoint presentation, for example, so that folks we can have access to it and like be able to reference it, for example, or see what y'all have been working on through your practicum. So that's mostly what I meant through like this drive, Google Drive folder that the fellows can use. Okay, cool. So I think we are, yes, so we are at Google Drive. So again, for example, if you are an H&P advocate, again, you'll want to go into your folder, for example, and then make sure that you are tracking your technical assistance meeting notes with your coaches in the notes documents and any other coalition, for example, your Tennessee coalition meeting notes in this Google folder, so that H&P, the Health Not Prisons Collective, can track what you are doing in your coalitions. And then same goes for for PWN policy fellows. So like, we definitely would love any resources that you all create to be able to reference back to it, to see how we, to see all the amazing work that y'all are doing in the fellowship. Okay. And then resources, our amazing comms team actually suggested that y'all, that I include a link on trainings for Google Suite. They actually have, Google Suite offers various, it's like actually kind of like it's a curriculum in some ways for you to like be able to become proficient in Google Suite. If anyone here wants to dive in deeper around the various applications of Google Suite, and they have helpful questions, YouTube, like short video clips that you can follow along with. I've kind of poked around in it. So here's a link to it in case folks are interested in just learning more about Google Suite. But for the purposes of the fellowship and the advocates program, mostly we just want folks to be able to access their Google folder and be able to, for example, if you're an H&P advocate, make sure you're tracking notes in that folder. So yeah, I will go quickly into some communications best practices. So I will go ahead and start the survey. And Shakina, Rose, sorry, do you have another question? I see your hand.
I do. I use Microsoft Word more than I do Google Docs. Do you prefer Google Docs only to create documents?
That's a great question. I don't have a preference necessarily. I don't think we do either, because you can upload Google or Microsoft Word documents into your folder in Google Suite, and those you can still access it through it. I think oftentimes it'll create like a Google Doc from that Word document if you upload it into Suite. So I don't think that should be an issue in terms of accessing it. So no preference there. Yeah, for example, if you do want to be able to collaborate or upload any type of document into the folder. I think we'll be able to access it regardless. That's a great question though. Great, and then,
Excuse me.
yeah.
I just shared inside the chat box. I set up me a Gmail for PWN.
Oh, great,
So
awesome.
So if y'all wanted to do that, y'all could. That's another way to make it simple for us.
Thank you, awesome. I see that in the chat. Okay, awesome. So I'll go ahead and start the poll really fast of we'll quickly do what is the best way to contact you? Looks like we have some responses coming in. Email, we have Slack, we have text, follow-up phone call, other. Looks like we have a lot of email. Some folks like text.
So how are we doing this? Did I miss the question link or something? Was it? Are we just putting it in the chat box?
Oh, there's on your Zoom. There should be like a little pop-up that is a poll or a quiz. It's like a little window. If you already completed that, I think you should be good to go. But do you see the little pop-up for the poll or quiz?
No, no, I
Oh,
don't.
interesting. I wonder, are you on your phone, Kaneen? I wonder if that may affect it. Okay. Maybe that's why. But feel free to
on
put
my
in.
phone,
It came up for your phone, Stephanie?
yeah, sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Maybe I wonder if it's, well, Kaneen, for now, feel free to input your preference in the chat. I wonder if it's also maybe if you need to update your app, your Zoom app for whatever reason in your phone. I'm not sure. I wonder why it's not showing up.
It's time sensitive, Amanda. So when the poll typically goes up, your Zoom may be already programmed for the amount of allotted time for a poll for people to respond. And once that time, it just disappears.
Got it. Okay. That could be it. Okay, great. Email or text. Okay, yeah, I'll end the poll. It seems like most folks prefer email, some prefer text, some prefer follow-up call, and then one person responded other. So I'm interested in hearing what they, if this person doesn't
that
mind.
was me. I
Yeah.
put other because it don't matter either one of them is fine with me. I had raised my hand because I have another PWN meeting to go to for the PWN Texas Strike Force meeting. It starts at 6, and I know we almost finished. I didn't know how much longer we had.
Oh yeah, this is actually the end of just a couple more minutes, and we'll be wrapping up soon.
Okay.
And then we'll have one more question. Time zones actually. So this will lead into our last slide, our last couple slides actually. So in the poll, and Kaneen, if you can just put in your time zone, what time zone you're in the chat, that'd be awesome. So we have Pacific time, Mountain time, Central time, Eastern time. Just want to get a poll to see who is where. Okay. Looks like
she was right. She was right. It was time sensitive.
Oh. Okay. I'm glad that you found it. Shakina Rose is our in-house tech expert, so we'll have to consult that. It looks like, okay, I'll share results. So we do have most folks actually in Central time, 5 folks, and then Eastern time. No one in Pacific time or Mountain time. I know we do actually have someone from Colorado as a PWN fellow, and so they are on Mountain time. But it looks like the majority of folks are on Central Time and Eastern Time. And so I think this is really good to know just in terms of communications. For example, I'm on Pacific Time, so y'all on the East Coast are 3 hours ahead of me. But just to keep in mind time zones when we're communicating with one another, and I'll be sure to keep that in mind with y'all as well. Okay. Very quickly, our last couple slides. So again, keeping in mind time zones. For example, you might not get a response from me right away if you email me at 9 a.m. because that is, for example, 6 a.m. my time. So I just keep that in mind too in communicating. Unfortunately, I'm not a very early riser, so I usually am looking at my phone around 8, but so which would be 11 a.m. Eastern time. Emails, just best ways to communicate via email. Make sure that you are, importantly addressing folks, including the message content, as well as signing who it's from. Sometimes we do get emails from folks from emails who we're not familiar with, and we just are not sure who's sending those emails. So just to try to be as descriptive as possible when, for example, asking about like something around HR, for example, if you want to update your direct deposit or, need to update like a bank account number or something, and make sure that you're like including your email signature, who it's from, and who you are, and what exactly you're asking in your request. I think that'd be really helpful just in terms of, communicating in this next year. Go ahead, Brielle.
The direct, that's the thing with that, it's a direct deposit form. Wasn't it on the first form that we filled out when we signed the agreement? I can't remember.
No, so the agreement didn't have that information. I believe you're in touch with Kelly around figuring that out with Aisha, our FinOps, our finance and operations manager. And sorry, I didn't mean that at all. I didn't mean that at all as a point of view to you, Priya. I think it was just a general like example.
Yeah, I just wanted to know because I know where I live at now, like the mailboxes are open. Like anybody can get to it because it's that type of building because it's only 10 units.
Yeah.
So they have the ones like a house would have.
Right.
So that's what's on my mind as far as personal information coming through it, except.
Definitely, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then also I want to update my phone number because I did do a number change.
Okay, yeah, definitely email us that information. And I know you're great with email, Brielle, around just making sure that, including the request, etc., within the email. So yeah, great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And with that, we'll just wrap up. I know we only have 1 minute left. And so just quickly upcoming, we have for folks attending HINAC 5, there is a in-person and virtual option for folks interested in attending the training academy from June 4th to the 8th. The virtual registration link is here. If you are going either virtually or in person, don't forget to download the Whova app. HINAC 5 again is HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy. It's really exciting. I know Shakina Rose is going, so I'll see you there in person, as well as Marnina. Don't forget for policy fellows, you have your monthly mentor call later this month, June 20th at 4 p.m. For H&P advocates, you'll be touching bases with your coaches on your own time, figuring out a time to check that works best for you both. And then on the 28th, we have a really exciting web session, Understanding the Structure of the Federal and State Government. That should be on your calendars already. We have 2 amazing speakers, including Drew Gibson from AIDS United, as well as Brianna Diaz from the ACLU of Virginia. So they'll be your presenters for this training. and they'll go over the structure of the federal and state government at that time. So save the date. And yeah, I think with that, if anyone has any questions, feel free to, as always, email me. And I will go ahead and close this out for our last session, or for our first session now. Yeah, Shakina Rose.
Will we have access to the recording if for any reason we need to review whatever has happened? Maybe we got busy doing something and didn't hear it all.
Yeah, so for recordings, we will either live stream or at least record them, and so that they will be accessible afterwards for folks who weren't able to attend and or need a review. We are opening up the training sessions. For example, the web session, starting at web session number 2, the structure of the federal and state government, to the broader PWN base. So folks will be able to attend live as well. PWN members will be able to attend live, for example. Brielle, I see, I'm not sure if you kept your hand up. I don't know if you have a question. Oh, great. Okay. And then Yolanda?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So when I got this amazing policy fellow, I was shocked, like, oh my God, they picked me. But prior to that, I have booked, y'all, I got so many trips coming up this year. I got to go to Corpus. I got to go to Kentucky. I got to go to Austin. I got the tripping, and I'm going to be on these calls and everything by computer. But the one in July, during the time that we have our session, which would be at 6 p.m. in July, I will be in Kentucky. I will be on Eastern, but I may be on my phone. Is that acceptable, or do I need to like take a tablet?
No, I mean, so the main goal, I mean, we would love for you to participate live as much as you can. And the main reason why we required a tablet or a computer is to be able to complete assignments, be able to work in Zoom and Google Docs, for example, which isn't really a possibility if you only on a phone. If you need to participate in a training session via phone, we just ask that you ensure that like you're able to fully engage in the training. For example, if you need to ask a question or come off mute, that like you're in a quiet space that allows you to participate fully in the training session. So yes, you can attend on your phone, but just ask that you make yourself available to be able to really soak in the information and be present and participate if you wish. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so very much, because my goal, ladies, is to attend every session. And so even if I have to be on the phone for like one session, I will be there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Yolanda. All right. Thank you, Brielle. We'll see you later. I know that we're at time. All right, y'all. We'll see you on the 28th.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.